13 Reasons Why is a thing. I'm pretty sure we all know about 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. If you haven't by now seen the Netflix series, I mean, you might have your own reasons or you haven't heard of it yet, but if you haven't heard of it yet, then you must be living under a rock because it's pretty popular. I started at midnight and I never slept. And I finished it around like noon-ish the next day. I couldn't stop watching it. The show was so gripping and captivating and I was just like, oh my god. I read the actual book 2 years ago. It was my junior year in high school. So when everyone else was reading it while they were like 10 years old in elementary school, I didn't read it till my actual high school year because I guess I was completely oblivious to its existence until later on, and I was like, let's pick it up, see what it's about, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I loved it. I realized that if I tried to review the entire thing in one video, it would have to be 13 hours long. I decided to make it a series. It's not spoiler free. Most of y'all have probably already seen it already though, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, this is the first episode, so let's just get started. Clay Jensen discovers a box of tapes and like recorded tapes on his doorstep one day, and he goes in his room, opens it, sees what it is, and it is a box of tapes that this girl Hannah Baker recorded. There are 7 tapes, and on every side except one, there is a reason and a story that she tells on each one. And Hannah Baker is a girl who committed suicide from his school. It's her explanation for why she committed suicide, why she killed herself. And in the book, it immediately just starts with Clay finding the tapes on his doorstep. But in the show, they have him go to school first, and like there are all these different posters and stuff like that about committing suicide and how it's not an option and blah 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 blah. And teachers are talking about if you need help, there is help, you know, people are there to help you and support you and stuff, and just all these kinds of things. In the book, it's literally just Clay. Like, it's just how he's feeling and how like it's affected him, Hannah's death and everything, and just all that kind of stuff. But in the show, they show other characters, like they show Hannah's parents, teachers, the guidance counselor, some of Hannah's past friends or classmates or whatever, and how different people react differently. One of my favorite scenes at the beginning was when the guidance counselor took the parents to Hannah's locker and they open it and there's nothing personal about it. It's literally just a blank locker with books inside. And the mom makes this comment. She's like, this is Hannah's locker? Why is it like this? Why aren't there stickers? Why, you know, obviously the parents are like so confused, trying to figure out why their daughter committed suicide, because she didn't leave a note or anything except the tapes, but the tapes aren't sent to the parents, obviously. It's a big question of why. And they keep searching for different signs that they might have missed and all that kind of stuff. And you can really see the tension between the parents and like just how stressful and how overwhelmed everything is for them right now. And their relationship is just it's heartbreaking. They did a really good choice for the cast. When I saw that the mom was, I can't remember her name, but she played on Grey's Anatomy. When I saw that it was her, I was like, oh damn, because she is great at playing hot messes and she's great at playing that really mom role, and they did a really good choice of casting her. I was very happy when I saw that. Throughout the series, Clay has a hard time listening to the tapes, like just one after another. He has to take his time because it's very hard for him hearing Hannah's voice and all that, because They were a lot closer in the show than in the actual book. In the book, it takes him 24 hours. He doesn't even go to school until after he's finished all the tapes. He goes through so much crap in just one night, and I understood it, definitely, but I loved how they made it throughout days and weeks of school in the show. I really liked that, because then he would go to these different characters once he got through their tape and be like, what happened? Is what she's saying true? You know, all this kind of stuff. It really brought a lot more detail, and also more backstories of like the other characters and what they've gone through and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to this, when it's literally just Clay. So there are like a lot of Star Wars references in the show, and I loved it so much. It was so great. And then Hannah would always call Clay out for them. She'd be like, you're such a nerd. And then like there's the scene where like Kat makes the Star Wars reference, and she's like, oh my god, you're both nerds. And just it was great. I loved that so much. It just made me feel happy when that happened. In the book, Clay just goes home, finds the tapes, and then immediately in his mind he's like, oh wait, my dad has a stereo, I can play the tapes on there. There's no interaction between the dad and him whatsoever. But in the show, there is an awkward sort of interaction where the dad's asking if he's okay and like how he's feeling today, because the school emails all the parents and stuff again about the whole suicide awareness and trying to find signs and all that kind of stuff. So Clay's parents are very, very concerned and worried about him in the show, and it's very obvious. And in the book, so far, there was never an interaction between the dad. And then when the mom comes in and asks him what he's listening to, that's it. She never asks him if he's okay, or says, you know, if you ever want to talk. She never does any of that. And it's just a lot less personal in the book. I like that there's so much more with the parents. The parents really annoy me though. They're the kind of parents who think they know what's best, and you know, I understand emotional state, because you know, they're confused, they're worried about their son, because this friend of his or someone he was acquainted with, he worked with, has committed suicide. You know, they're wondering, oh, why did she do it? And they're wondering if how affected he is, and they're just wondering all these things. There's the scene in the show where he breaks the stereo. Like he can't press the eject button or something like that, and he has to figure out another way to listen to the tapes, and so he thinks of his friend Tony, who has a Walkman. You know, he listens to tapes all the time. He's not a big fan of anything else, really. He thinks it's really bad, which is the same way that Tony is in the book. Clay has listened to all of the tapes already, and then he goes to Tony's house to get the Walkman, and then he steals the Walkman and all that kind of stuff. That still happens. But the order that it's done in, it was a lot more dramatic with the show. And I loved the dramatic part. It was great. There's no crash scene in the book either when he crashes his bike and gets the cut. But the cut is very understandable, because that was the only way to distinguish between when Clay was hallucinating or having a flashback to when it was present time. The other reason was, like, in the past there was a different lighting. I don't know if everyone caught that, but if you look back, there is more amber lighting in the flashbacks and everything to make it look warmer, and then in the present there is a much cooler lighting. It's a lot more bluer and just like fluorescent, I guess. There's a term for you. In the book, Clay and Hannah aren't that close. He only really knows her from the rumors he's heard. When she first moved there, he met her at Kat's going away party. And in the show, they actually started working at the cinema beforehand, so she invites him to the party at her house. And then he gets a nickname from her, helmet, and all this kind of cutesy stuff that happens between Clay and Hannah throughout the show doesn't happen in the book. And it kind of makes me sad, because I really like the cutesy moments, because like, I love them together. I love them so much, obviously. That's what makes it one of the most tragic love stories of all time, because you know that it's not gonna work out, because, you know, she dies. And Hannah's talking about the scene at her party. Zach shows up with Justin, and she says, "Hey, Zach," on the tape, and it immediately spoils that Zach Dempsey is also on one of the tapes. It doesn't spoil anyone else's name in the book, but in the show, it does spoil that Courtney is on the tapes later on, because there's the whole scene where after Clay has listened to the tape completely and he's at school the next morning, he looks into classrooms and he looks at different students, different ways and everything, and shows Courtney looking very nervous, looking at him and looking away, and just like, you immediately know that she is on one of those tapes. Another thing that the show spoils is the role that Tony has. In the book, the first chapter ends with him leaving Tony's house after he's stolen the Walkman, and Tony never says anything about the tapes or anything else. In the show, there are actually like 3 scenes with him and Tony. The first one is the Walkman scene when he steals it. The second one is when he's at the park listening to the first tape, and Tony shows up and he's like, "Is that my Walkman?" He's like, "Just don't freak out about what you hear," or something like that. I can't remember the actual wording, but basically he reveals that he knows about the tapes. And then the next morning when Clay goes back to school, he's like, "What the hell, Tony?" And Tony's reveals that he's not on the tapes. He's actually the person, the watcher, per se. And yeah, that doesn't get revealed in this until like way later on. I think like halfway through, not even sure. So it kind of loses the mystery of who's the one watching them in the show, but at the same time there's still the whole mystery of what else is Tony not telling Clay. One of my favorite scenes that they have in the show is the bus scene, where Hannah pretends that she rides the bus, and then Justin gets on the bus because he's like, a bus with a hot girl, or a car ride with you idiots. Yeah, I think I know what I'll choose, or I don't know. He says something like that. And so he gets on the bus, and then she pretends that she forgot something in the class, so then she gets off the bus. The bus starts to take off, and then Justin's like, "Wait, where does this bus lead to?" And she's like, "I don't know. I don't take the bus either." It's so good. It's so good. It's why I love Hannah, because it was when she was playing hard to get and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's just who Hannah is. Like, her personality is so relatable with myself, and it's great. I love her so much, which is what makes it even sadder to see her go through these things. One other thing I will say about this first episode and chapter and stuff is, obviously in the book, the tapes are her voice. You know, they're her recordings. Nothing's being lied about, because it's literally just her side of the story and her emotions and how she felt and everything. And the thing is, with the show, you actually see it. It's a visual, and it's a lot easier to vision what is going on when you can actually see it on a screen. Not saying that it wasn't hard to depict it in the book, because it was so vivid in my mind and everything. I was just like, oh my god. Comparing the chapter to the episode, I think I liked the episode more, because it created a broader image of like everyone instead of just Clay, and it also was a lot more dramatic, which was great. Like, there were so many things that just fit, and it was really good to see stuff like that. I liked the order, how they did it, how they had him go to Tony before he was finished with the first tape and stuff. Just overall, this show, like this book, this series, like everything dealing with 13 Reasons Why I love. And, you know, it was just, it's such a brilliant thing. And that's all I have to say for tape 1. So thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I will see y'all for tape 2.